If you go to a dinner party and talk about information, everyone seems to know what you mean. And these days, we're so familiar with it, it's almost as if it's got a life of its own, that it does stuff, that information seems to have some sort of causal power. And we construct narratives around what information does. It affects the world. Now, clearly, it does affect the world, but so does matter. So what we would like to know is how matter and information fit together. Is there one lot of laws governing information and another lot of laws governing matter? Well, they better be compatible. Every time we see information, it's instantiated in matter. It doesn't just float around in empty space. It's got to be attached to something. And so this presents a bit of a paradox, because physicists are used to studying what matter does. Information tags along for the ride. So my interest in it is whether we can treat it as if it is the primary stuff out of which the physical world is built. Now, that's a drastic step to say underpinning everything is information, but it's certainly clear that in some circumstances, information is calling the shots. And the circumstances are right here when we have this conversation, because living organisms exemplify the power of information, because they're really information processing systems. Now, we're familiar with the term information processing from computers. Computers have been designed by human beings. We like to suppose that living organisms haven't been designed, they've evolved. And so how's this information processing emerged from the clamor of molecules just banging into each other in some sort of chemical soup? That's what interests me these days. It's the emergence of information processing systems that we call living cells.
So how do living cells process information?
If you talk to a biologist, what is life? You'll be given a narrative in terms of things like the genetic code. Genes are instructions for cells to carry out certain tasks. Talk to a physicist or a chemist, what is life? And they give an explanation in terms of molecules and energies and interactions and so forth. So we have these two parallel narratives discussing the same thing. And what I would like to know is how the informational narrative emerged from the matter narrative, because we've got two different levels of description. How do we get one out of the other? You can't have some mix of properties of molecules that give you coded information. It's a different conceptual landscape entirely. Historically, matter has been at the bottom of the explanatory chain, and information has been a sort of secondary derivative of it. And so whilst we recognize that information makes a difference in the world, it somehow doesn't seem to be fundamental. But there's increasing interest among at least a small group of physicists to turn this upside down and say maybe at rock bottom, the universe is about information and information processing, and it's matter that emerges as a secondary concept. And we're led to that because of quantum physics, where you interrogate nature and you get answers in terms of bits of information.